Okay, everybody, now we are going to run through a project together. We are going to, we're going to create a, we're going to make something in code blocks. We're going to use the start code that is right here in Canvas under week 6. It's called startcode.docs. We're going to copy it. We're going to paste it over here into code blocks. And as of right now, we have no array here. This is the old way. I'm going to kind of separate things out a little bit. Let's go ahead and move our couts down a couple of lines. And let's go ahead and separate oh no. There, so now you can see we have our data. These are your grades. And we have our total points right here. And then we have our average, which is just the total divided by 4. And then we're going to see what's going to happen in 2 semesters. So we're going to take the average times 2 divided by 2. I know it looks weird. We're going to take the average times 2 for 2 semesters and then divide that by 2 to get the average of the 2 semesters. So that's what that's all about. So our cout is going to be, actually, let me move the return down too. Our couts are going to be your total points, your average points, and then what you're on your way to getting if you continue on the path that you've been going, getting a 50, then a 100, then a 50, then a 100. Let's run it and see what we get. Okay, so your total points would be 300. You have a 75% average, and you are on your way to having a 75 if you keep going in this direction. So what we want to do is refer back to our PowerPoint and convert this over to an array. So let's see how we did it before. So here's our old way. This is what we're looking at, just a different data type, different set of variables. So we want to take everything that is here and put it in float months array, brackets for the 6. Well, in our case, it would be a 4, and then put all our variables in there just like that. So let me see here. Now we are going to call this grades array. And this capital A is not necessary. It just kind of makes it easier for me to see. Okay, so now we need our open bracket. Nope. And we want to put 4 in there. And we have a space, equals, and then another space. We want to make sure we get our syntax perfect here. It's our first time doing it, and we don't want to get ourselves confused. And then we start entering our data. So we have 50. Oh, there was a space there. 50, 100, 50, 100. Space, close it up. Okay, so now this should cover this. But when we run it, it's not going to work. Try to guess why. Look. There is no longer a grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, and grade 4. We just deleted that. So what do we do about that? Well, look, now we have to point to the element of the array. Remember how that works? Element 1 would be 220. Element 2 would be 300. So that's what we now have to do. So we're going to say grades array, and then in our bracket, we're going to put, what element we want. So we would start with element 0, don't forget. Now I'm just going to copy this. One, two, three, one more. Now when we run it, we should get the same exact result. Uh-oh, what'd I do wrong? I think I forgot my semicolon. Oh, forgot my semicolon up here. There we go. Now it'll run. Exact same results. So now we have condensed our data down into this array, so it saved us a lot of space. So now let's see what else we can do. Do we really feel like typing all this out? Well, actually, next, let's see if we can get it to where the users input the data. So we're going to do cin months array 0 through 4. And we'll also do a cout of enter the amount. So over here in our code, we're no longer going to put the data here. We have to keep the 4 because there's still going to be 4 inputs. Yeah, let's make it capital. Let's make it look as good as we can. Now it should be, just make sure. Yeah, grade array, number in brackets. And then we can copy this. Oops. And everything else should stay the same. Let's run it and see what happens. What did I miss? Oh, it's always the semicolon, isn't it? Now on that one, I forgot to put the S in. It's grades array, not grade array. So let me fix that real quick. Why did it do that? Well, let's just see if it's going to work. Okay, now let's try to run this and see if it works. There we go. Enter amount. 1, enter. 2, enter. 3, enter. 3, enter. Okay, total points was 9, which is correct. The average is 2.25, and you're on the path to 2.25. Okay, so that worked. But when it said enter amount, the 1 appeared up here, and I did not really like that. So after that end amount, why don't we go ahead and add in end line, then place our semicolon. Oh. Forgot my 2 little arrows. Now it should run. There we go. 1. Oops, that was spacebar. 6, 7, 9. total, the average, and what you're on the path to getting. Which is always going to, 2 divided by 2 is 1, so they're going to match. Okay, so let's see what else we can do here. Well, if you're totaling something up, this line right here, if you have, 100 variables or whatever, well, actually, let's put these into a loop. Let's look at our next slide. Let's make this into this. So float months array 6 stays there. The cout is now down here, and we're going to use a for loop above that. That's why we went over it earlier in our review. And, okay, so let's just, actually, let me do this. Let me pull up code blocks. There, now we can see it, and that'll make it easier for us. So instead of what's right above us, we are going to do a for loop. Initialize I equals 0. I is, we can just do a less than 6. Less than or equal to 5 is the same as less than 6. Either way, it stops when it hits 6. And then for the next one, we're going to increment by 1, I++. Open curly bracket. I'm writing grade in there because we are using grades. Enter amount for grade, and then see the I down here, when it outputs, it'll say enter amount for grade 1. So our CN right here will increase with this loop. Oh wait, no. Our array is grades array. Now I is going to equal, it's going to start by equaling 0, and then after it runs through the loop, it'll increment by 1, then it'll equal 1. Then it'll increment by 1, then it'll equal 2. Then it'll increment by 1, and it'll equal 3. And then I needs to be, actually, this is wrong, this needs to be less than 4. It would have ran the loop too many times. We don't have as much data as we did in our PowerPoint presentation. So now that that's in there, we don't need any of this. Cross your fingers. Boo. What did we miss? Semicolon. Enter amount for grade 0. Now, enter amount for grade 0. That most people who aren't in the programming world, they don't understand, the center amount for grade 0. What do they mean by that? But we'll do it anyhow. 50, enter amount for grade 1. See what I mean? Wouldn't it be better if it started with a 1? I will show you how to fix that soon. So there's your average. We just made a program that can calculate grades, but we want to, on our cout, There, now it starts with grade 1. You got a 50, then you got a, oops, you got a 50, then you got a 20, then you got a 90, then you got a 100. Okay, so the very last thing is going to be to put the float total around the loop. So I'm going to give us a little extra space here, rather than having to add it up down here. So let's go back over to our PowerPoint and see how to do that. So these are the two things that change. Float total equals 0 goes up here. Total equals, well, the total will equal the months array plus the current total. So let's go ahead and move this down. Here's our for loop. Now the one thing I'm not seeing here, there's the open squiggly line. It must be down here. Okay, so let's go. Okay, that looks good. Okay, so now every time this loops, the total will increase by whatever was input by the user, and will be added to this value right here until the index value is, is 4, because then the statement becomes no longer true, and it will stop looping. But we can't forget to take out this line right here. We no longer need this. Let's run it and see what happens. Oh. Grades array. And there it is, and it works. So, this is the completed code. Here, I can take a space out here, that way it all fits in one window. This is your completed code. For the little tiny bit of code we have, it runs, a pretty decent program, considering how much we would have had to code in. It would have been about twice as much code if we had not used arrays. So that is the point. And you got to think, this value, let's just say we had, 100 values to put in. This would have to be changed to 100. This would have to be changed to 100. This would have to be changed to 100, but you're only changing 3 values, and you can hold that much data. So that's the purpose of arrays. This, hit run, screenshot me from here to here, and hand that in for your assignment, and that'll be this week's grade. Have fun.